Well, welcome YouTube friends and family to our first edition of the old-fashioned Christmas series. So today, if you can tell by what I'm wearing, we are going to start with the 1920s. So one of you lovely subscribers suggested or gave me the idea to actually dress up in 1920s attire. So I remembered that I had this flapper dress Halloween costume. So let me see if I can show you. It has all the fringes. And I'm not going to show you how short it is, guys, because it must have shrunk in the closet over the, I don't know, 15 years since I wore it last, because I don't think I ever wore my dresses quite this short. So I do have my hair in the side messy bun, which was, messy buns were big in the 20s. The headband, of course, the pearls, and then the flapper dress. So I hope you're getting a kick out of this. So we're gonna start by just sharing some information in general about the 1920s Christmas time. What did that look like? Why did it look like that? And then we're gonna get to making a craft and actually cooking a delicious treat that comes from the 1920s. So stay tuned. So let's get started talking about the 1920s. So a lot of the information that I researched came from this book by Susan Wagner, and it's called Have Yourself a Very Vintage Christmas. And it's all about crafts, decorating tips, and recipes from the 20s to the 60s. So I will drop a link in the description box. I did purchase this on Amazon. I would say this would be fine to purchase as a used book as well. It just has such lovely pictures, and I'll share a couple with you. So, can you believe, guys, that the 1920s was 100 years ago? I don't know why I found that so amazing. I thought, wow, that is a long time ago, even though I wasn't living in the 20s and my mother wasn't living in the 20s. You have to remember that World War I ended in 1918, and not all of the 1920s were representative of what I'm going to share, because in August of 1929 is when we had the beginning of the Great Depression. So they call this era Dickens to Deco. So Charles Dickens to Art Deco. And women were wearing shorter hair. I wasn't going to bob my hair for purposes of this video, for sure. And they wore shorter skirts, which I am right in fashion, guys, let me tell you, because this dress barely covers my seat. So I'm sure that it shrunk in the closet. The major source of entertainment was radio. And in spite of innovations that started in the 1920s, Christmas was very traditional. So a lot of paper decorations. You know those honeycomb decorations that you unfold and then you clip them together? A lot of times they have them like in the party section. So the red honeycomb bell was classic for 1920s. They did a lot of crepe paper streamers, not steamers, must be hungry. They had tissue paper garlands and a lot of German die cuts, so images, paper die cuts. So a lot of paper back in the 1920s. The colors were a little less traditional, and that was kind of the introduction of using pastels. So the lavender, the robinate blue, cream, and rose were big colors. That kind of evolved with the advent of Art Deco, and colors became more opaque and intense. And red was certainly the most predominant color. So a big way to wrap presents was using white tissue and red ribbons. So let me show you just a typical depiction of white and red. This is just brown paper with baker's twine. And they had a craft in here I thought about bringing to you, but I'll just share it with you because it's uber simple, and I didn't think it would make like a true craft video. So if you have old embroidery floss, take red and white, twist it, like tie it to a doorknob, and then just keep twisting it, tie it at the end. You spray starch it and iron it, and you will have baker's twine. Now, since I can buy it at the Dollar Tree, I don't think I'm going to use my embroidery floss for that. But that's an idea if you're going for that 1920s look. So why did they call it Dickens to Deco? So after World War I, there was a craving for innocent times, and that makes perfect sense. There were actually four 4 film versions of A Christmas Carol. I did not know that. It was often scenes from Dickens were depicted on magazine covers, and a lot of merry old England, carriages, English holly, lanterns, all of that was popular in decor. On mantles, there were candles and antique holders. And I don't know if they were antique to the 1920s or antique to the 2020s. Silhouettes were also popular from Dickens' time. So there's a really neat silhouette in this book. Y'all have to excuse me because I'm using talking notes. I just don't want to forget. So here is a very classic silhouette that you might have seen in the 1920s. Isn't that neat? So the theme of the 1920s Christmas and holiday celebrations was hearth and home. So there was a very big emphasis on homey, cozy Christmas. Greeting cards represented cottages and villages under snow, or couples sitting at the hearth. In fact, mantles and hearths are the only interior parts of home shown on cards, far outnumbering the actual tree itself. So a Christmas tree, while in today's world is kind of our symbol of Christmas, or I think it is for many, that is not traditionally what you see. So here are some images which represent hearth or home, and one represents a tree, but these are true 1920s vintage cards. Children and toys. Children were more popular, and you can see that in those pictures as an icon than Santa. And I had no idea about this, guys. You've probably all seen the Snow Baby figurines. Those came from Germany, and they actually started in the 1920s. And you know what? You can almost go nowhere and not see a Snow Baby type figurine when it comes to Christmas decorations in the stores. It was customary to use your children's toys as decorations or to make elaborate vignettes. So they used what they had to make it look festive and Christmas-like. The dawn of deco happened during the 20s, so it caught on more quickly in Europe than here in the US. But by the decade's end, we started to see those bold geometric patterns, the Harlequin diamonds in black and gold, and matching gift tags and cards. Who knew? Poinsettias, or poinsettias is what I call them. It looks like it's pronounced poinsettia, so however you say it. They were not widely used back then because they were believed to be poisonous in general, especially to children. So I have always understood that poinsettias can be poisonous to pets, but they are used either artificially or live much more predominantly than they were back in the 1920s. So what did the 1920s Christmas tree look like? Stay tuned. Well, today we have pretty much any style of Christmas tree, artificial-wise, can be purchased in the stores, from every place from your local grocery store, which often has trees, down to an actual Christmas tree shop that sells a lot of artificial trees. But what did they look like in the 1920s? Well, lights used on the tree were not widespread until the 30s, and also artificial trees did not really come into vogue until the 30s, so it was a live tree. So often it was put up on Christmas Eve due to drying out and fire danger. And the trees of that time were fat and round. So often they would cut a tree and then cut it in half and use like the fattest part of it so that it looked more luxurious. There were less balls and more glass ornaments, and most of these came from Germany. The whole history of shiny bright ornaments is something we will cover in an upcoming episode. It's fascinating, but Germany really was the go-to manufacturer source for Christmas decorations for many years, for balls for hanging on the tree. So they were sold individually. They were very expensive. So they were usually purchased like one a year. So it could take generations to really get your tree decorated lavishly. So there were globes, teardrops, pine cones, fruits, dogs, cats, wild animals, and Santas. There were also paper mache ornaments. So you're seeing a theme here. A lot of paper was used in the 20s. There were small toys, I mentioned that earlier, and baby shoes, which I think is a cute decoration. A lot of die-cut images. So again, back to paper. So they were large, lavish, heavy cardboard, embellished with embossing. So let me just show you one, of these that perhaps would have been used. So it's got gilded ribbon and then this crepe paper around. Treats, animal crackers. Have you ever wondered why animal crackers that are in the box had a string? I don't know if they still do. And that was so that they could be hung on the tree. And the children's treats were put on the tree as more mass-produced and packaged items were available. And this replaced the Victorian paper cones. Do you remember those, where they would put flowers and then different candy treats inside those cones? They used a lot of garlands due to the lack of light. So they would put 4 to 6 different strands, for the reflective power. And generally they were paper mache balls dusted with glitter. So something they could probably do at home. Expensive large glass beads were separated by long tubes and smaller beads. So some of that was popular if you had the money to afford it. And then the final touch was a gold thread or gold cord to look kind of like a fretwork of shimmering gold. So still didn't have those crazy icicles that get static cling and stick to everything. So what was underneath the tree? So there were a lot of new toys, things like the pogo stick, Lincoln logs, things that I think, Lincoln logs are still available today, I know. So they used tiered risers around the trunk, spread a sheet over it, and then they created landscapes and miniatures. So whether it was little toy trains or depending on the toy, they've themed the little vignette to that. I think that's so very neat. They used boats, farm animals, things from Noah's Ark, and doll furniture. And they were elaborate and very detailed scene. So if you want to get the look of the 1920s, what are some of the things that you can do? Well, obviously, create a little miniature landscape under your Christmas tree. Replace your pine with holly. Now, I'm not sure how you would do that because I have a holly bush and it's already bloomed and it's on the wane, so I would not have any Christmas holly this year. Use a red-only color scheme with white or cream contrast, so red velvet bows, red glassware. If you have a mantle, make that your focal point. Put candles, garland, and holly on there. Replace your candles with tapers in old-fashioned candle holders. Use battery-operated lanterns. Use small artificial birds as ornaments, especially pastel colors and beaded tails. Doesn't that sound lovely? And go and buy some of those Department 56 snow babies. If you want to wrap your presents, I already showed you the picture. So using the baker's twine, the red and white twine, or take white paper, plain white paper, and stamp it with red holly. So I am going to pause here. I had to check my notes here. And I am going to go get into something more comfortable, guys. I hope you understand. First of all, yeah, this dress is way too short. This thing is super itchy and I want to get my lipstick off. So hang tight. We're going to start by making our own glittery beaded garland. Stay tuned. So here's what you're going to need to make our 4-foot section of glittery garland reminiscent of the 1920s. So I have here just strung on a wooden skewer some 12mm wooden beads that I got from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description box. So I actually have 300 of these, so this will make about a 4-foot piece of garland. Here I have some glitter. Guys, I've had this for a very long time. This is Martha Stewart glitter that I got on like a clearance price, and I've never had an occasion to use it. So yay for the Martha Stewart glitter. Something to put your glue on. I'm going to be using Elmer's Craft Bond glue, a paintbrush to paint glue on those beads. And I did want to share, I'm just using Reynolds freezer paper as a base to keep some of the glitter off of my cookie sheet. I do have some cardstock, just plain cardstock. You could even use junk mail cardstock to actually catch the excess glitter and then put it back into the vials. I have a couple sheets of that and a dryer sheet. So if any of you are glitter averse, you could certainly paint your beads. You don't have to do the glitter. Or you could paint them and lightly glitter them. So you have a lot of choices here. A couple suggestions that I have for you, because there's glitter in my house from Christmas till June, it feels like. Dryer sheets are a great remover. So sometimes Frankie will have glitter on him. I can pet him with the dryer sheet, it will come off. You can also spray the dryer sheet with hairspray and then not wipe your cat, but wipe yourself with it. Best removal for skin, hot water, and something oily like a conditioner or even just coconut oil. If you get it on your clothes and you can't get it off with a lint roller or masking tape, I know this sounds crazy, guys. Spray your clothes with hairspray. Let the hairspray dry. Put it into the washer alone, or you will have glitter on your other clothes, and wash it. Then you'll need to take some type of a wet paper towel, disposable cloth to clean out your washer. So just a few tips for you there, because I've had some glitter explosions. So let me just show you. We're not going to do all of these on camera because I'm sure you've all seen glue painting. Let me start over here. Probably would help if I brought things closer. So I'm just going to coat my beads really, really well with the glue. And you do want to use like a very tacky glue, like Aleene's tacky glue would work, but just something really, really sticky, and hopefully something that will dry clear. It's not the easiest to get it smooth. I'm not too worried about the smooth, and hopefully I won't end up gluing them to the actual wooden skewer. That's why I put them super close together. I was able to get 25 beads on each one of these. So let me continue here. I'm gonna, because it's gonna take a minute, but you see what I'm doing. I'm gonna go ahead and coat this with glue, and then we'll come back. I'll show you how to glitter them up. Okay, we have a very gluey strand of beads here. And I also wanted to say, if you paint your wooden skewer the same color, you could stick these into your Christmas tree as a decoration. I think that would be lovely as well. These glitters happen to come with a sprinkle top. So the first thing you want to do on your cardstock is rub it with a dryer sheet. This will prevent the static that so often happens. And I'm gonna just go in a row here. Oh, this is gonna be so lovely. And of course, you got to get a little bit on the counter, a little bit on the floor. But the reason I have a creased piece of cardstock is that it will make it a lot easier to get this excess glitter back into the bottle, because you can use it like a funnel. Coming along here. And it really does make it easier to have this little like sprinkle top. But I'm sure it doesn't have to be 100% covered. That's how I craft. And this is my first one. Guys, I have full intentions of having this done and not like just explaining it, but I don't know about y'all, but I have been so busy. Okay, I've got a spot here that the glitter will not stick to. And this glitter is water soluble, so I'm gonna have to wash that brush in between, or I'm gonna end up with multicolors. Let me just finish up what will stick. And this is what you have. So I have some bare spots. I'm gonna go back and touch those up with glitter. And then, let's set this over here for right now. just happens to fit perfectly on that extra large cookie sheet. You can see the glitter is not sticking to the card stock because I did rub it with the dryer sheet. It is, however, sticking to my hands. But who doesn't like a little glitter? So I'm just gonna use my dryer sheet here. But you can see how easy it will be to put it back in the bottle. So I'm gonna do a few more, then I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Well, I have to tell y'all, these are stunning, stunning. They are so glittery and pretty. I'm letting them dry. I've done like 4 shades in the teal and blue family. I'm going to do 4 in the pink and red, and then 4 just glittery, like silver, gold, bronze, that thing. I like them so much that instead of stringing it into a garland, because honestly, guys, I do have vintage glass bead garland, I am going to paint the ends of these and just use them as, you know, like stick out decorations. There's a name for it on the tree. I would also tell you, I misspoke. I try to edit as I go. I said it was water-soluble glitter. I meant glue. Sorry, guys. Blah. And I would spray these with some type of a sealer. And so that you don't dull your glitter, you would want something that has a high sheen if you're going to use like a polyurethane type spray, or if you're going to use Mod Podge, which dries clear, don't use the flat finish. I would use either an eggshell or a shiny. So I'll try it on a little bit. I don't think I have any spray sealer, but we'll see what I have. So I will finish that up later, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I've spent half the day doing this video for you. So guys, yes, I'm comfy now. I had to wait a while to show my face because I had a big across my forehead from the headband thing. Yeah, and I figured everybody'd be like, what happened to your head? Or, wow, how'd you get that scar? Because it looked pretty interesting. I did have to change clothes because I was freezing. It was 22 degrees here when I got up. We had a heavy, heavy, heavy frost, but it's a beautiful sunny day, and we're actually supposed to get up to 60 on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, then drop back by Thursday, high in the 40s, low in the 20s. So, you know, our wintry weather is here. But I'm sure you've noticed in the background, you're like, girl, you still got your fall and Halloween stuff up. Yes, yes, I do. I've been, as I said, extremely busy. I have not gotten to it. I'm getting ready to. So drop me a comment below. When do you decorate for Christmas? I know this is a little bit early for me to be sharing this, but Christmas is going to be here in less than 2 months. You know, it's just boom, it's going to show up. So whether we're ready or not. So one of the things that I will be doing as I'm doing some of these baking treats or Christmas worthy treats or even Thanksgiving treats, I'm going to be freezing a portion of those. Now, I will tell you, in all good intent, I did freeze the cookies, the ginger cookies. Yeah, but I'm going to need to make another batch. And someone mentioned making it with candied ginger, so I ordered some from Amazon. And I'm going to try a batch with that because my son does love ginger flavor as well. So what are we going to do today? Well, today I got a recipe from Taste of Home. So this is not from the book that I shared. And it's called Old-Fashioned Butterscotch Cake. And I'm probably going to butcher this, but this is how I've always said it, with panucci frosting. So the person who submitted this says, my aunt, who was born in the 20s, passed this recipe down to me. She made the cake from scratch from start to finish because she didn't have modern amenities to help her in the kitchen. The panucci frosting goes with the cake nicely, and this was submitted by Beth Vorst, Columbus Grove, Ohio, and I'll leave a link to the recipe in the box. The reason I can't write out the recipe, guys, is because sometimes these are copyright protected. I don't need a copyright strike. So what are we going to do here? I'm going to swing you down, and we have the handy dandy KitchenAid mixer. And the first thing we are going to do, and get my directions, I have taken a 13 by 9 inch pan and I've greased it. I have my oven preheating to 350. I am going to use convect. Even though it seems to take a little longer, it does seem to cook more evenly. So the first thing is I am going to use butter instead of shortening. this may alter the texture of the cake a bit, but my options of what I have on hand are lard, which would be fine, or butter, but I decided to use butter. I am using unsalted butter because shortening would be unsalted as well. If you don't know already, I'm allergic to soybeans, so I cannot use vegetable shortening. So I'm going to put on my paddle beater, and I'm going to start with half of a cup or a stick of softened butter and right into the mixer bowl. And then to that, I am going to add brown sugar, 1.5 cups. So let me fiddle around and find the measuring cup. So it does say packed brown sugar, so we will pack it into the cup. And my hands are clean. I'm just going to level it off with my hand. So there's 1/2. And by packed, you just want it to come out in one fell swoop, not, you know, in one clump like that, not loose like this. Okay. And guys, I know a lot of you are better cooks than I am, but I do have some of the younger generation that watches my video, and so if they're new to cooking or they don't know that, I just add it in there. So please don't be offended or take it that I think I'm superior to you, because I'm certainly not meaning to convey that. So we are going to cream this. So let me raise this, and I'm going to turn on the noise here. Did I plug it in? Yes. And it is going to make a lot of noise. I'm going to wash my hands, and I'll be right back. This time I was a little smarter, and I did take my room temperature butter and I put it in the microwave for, and it depends on your wattage, but I did like 7 seconds, and then I turned it over 7 seconds, and it's perfect. You don't want it melted if you're going to use the butter instead of the shortening. Oh, I don't know about you all, but the smell of butter and sugar cream together, nirvana, smells so delicious. It always reminds me of Christmas, because my mom, when I was growing up, we made so many things, and I hope to bring you at least one of the old-fashioned candy recipes we used to make. So I'm just going to cream this a little. Oops, let me get this hunk off the beater here. Cream it just a little bit more. So what you're looking for is, you know, like a paste where you can't see chunks of butter versus the brown sugar. All right, so I think that's looking good. Hopefully you can see that well. And guys, I want to show you these, oh, is it gonna show, are both large eggs. And maybe if I go this way with it, well, you can't really tell, but this egg on my left is like way bigger than the one on my right. So I don't know, maybe a extra large slipped past. So you want to add your eggs one at a time, and that's my oven letting me know it's ready. And just my suggestion, guys, I think, especially if you're doing store eggs, always crack your eggs into a separate dish, because if you by chance got a bad egg, wouldn't it be sad to have to throw away all that butter and sugar or whatever else was in your mixer? Okay, so we're going to add the second, and it says beat well after each addition. Be sure you throw one of your eggshells on the floor. Okay, the next item to add is a teaspoon of vanilla extract. You can measure, I just eyeball. And so what we have here is a really nice, soft paste, if you can, pardon me, if you can see. Guys, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. So I'm going to tell you why you hear me say pardon me a lot is because I have been blessed with chronic hiccups. So you will hear me hiccup, like hiccup and then stop, hiccup and then stop. So I try to swallow them down, so it often makes a pretty rude noise. Okay, let me grab another bowl. You know I can't have everything ready. And into our bowl, we are going to put 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So there's 1/4. One half. One. Looks like I need to fill up my flour. 1 1/2. And 2. So there's 2 1/4 cups. Now this time I'm not going to forget the salt, guys. So it calls for a teaspoon of salt. So let me measure that really quick. And one of the reasons I love these Morganhahn measuring spoons is the configuration. As you can see, it fits into small spice jars. So I love that. Also, we want 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I have here baking powder. 1, 2, and we'll find half here. That's 3/4. And several of you have mentioned about me using a knife. I know the knife looks curved, but it's flat on the back. My son, when he was very young, used to work at Ruby Tuesdays, and when they got rid of their steak knives to replace when they weren't very strong anymore, he grabbed, I think I have 4 of these, and they have been well loved and well used. So I've gotten so accustomed to using it as a leveling device that I always reach for it. Okay, I'm going to use my Danish whisk to get this all mixed up. And let me grab, can't have everything out. I really thought I was going to do it this time. So speaking of food shortages and short supplies, guys, the only milk that I could find was whole. They didn't have 2%. That's all they had, was whole milk, period. That's it, just whole milk. So we're going to get a cup of milk. Now this calls for 2%. I don't have 2%. So it'll just be that much better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn our mixer on a low speed. And we're going to take our flour mixture and add it slowly and alternately to our eggs, brown sugar, and butter. And then we will add a little milk. And we will just continue to go back and forth, giving it a little time to incorporate between each addition. This is such a simple cake, and I think it will really wow. And I think it's a good Thanksgiving or fall cake as well. And being so simple, if you're new to baking or baking isn't your strong point, Y'all probably noticed I don't think I've ever cooked a meat dish. Maybe I have on my channel, but I don't think so. Hard to remember what you've done over the last 14, 15 months. But it's just not, I don't feel that I'm expert at it. So I like baking and vegetables and salads. Those are the things that I enjoy doing the most in the kitchen. I'm going to just put the end of our flour in here. Give that just a minute. And add the rest of my milk pretty slowly. One thing with any cake batter, you really don't want to over mix. So what I'm going to do is get the flour off of the beater, which I invariably manage to do. Scrape it down well. So glob right there, okay. And then I'm going to give it one final mix. And we'll be ready for the pan. Wow, that is a lovely smooth batter. I'm so excited. Right. So let me get the rest of this off of the beater here. I didn't mention, but we're using the paddle beater. I think that's pretty obvious. This looks so good. And you can bet your sweet bippy when I turn off the camera, I will taste this. And I know you're not supposed to eat raw eggs. But I figure one little taste won't hurt me. Okay, guys, excuse me here. Don't have great hand strength at all. I need a bigger kitchen. All right, so let me just quickly, well, I got batter all over that. I'm just gonna go around the edges here real quick, make sure all the little pieces of flour are in there. So this is the look that you're gonna have, and how about that? So if you have a very large KitchenAid, I didn't catch this, sometimes when you cream butter and sugar, if your volume isn't great, it will stick to the indents of the bowl. Okay, we got that fixed. So we have our brown sugar, our shortening or butter, 2 eggs, vanilla extract, flour, baking powder, salt, milk, and the last item is a cup of chopped pecans or pecans. I don't know how y'all say it. I've always said pecans. And even though a little southern accent slips in now and again, I pretty much don't have a southern accent. I find that when I'm around my mom a lot, I tend to southern it up a little bit. And she doesn't have a dramatic southern accent, but y'all, let me tell you, my daddy, he had the most beautiful southern accent. He really did. And was proud of it. Not one bit embarrassed by it. So all I'm doing is to chop in my pecans because I like pretty big pieces, as I'm just breaking them up just a little bit. And I think I shared in another video, despite the exorbitant prices for 8 ounces at Aldi, I did find these at Walmart. I got 1.5 pounds for $9.99, I think. And 8 ounces at Aldi was 5 something, almost 6, $5.97 or something. I don't understand why they think that we don't figure that $5.97 is really $6. So, I mean, you might as well say $6. So I'm just going to break these up. I want to show you what it looks like when I get it into the pan, and then we are going to put it in again, the 350 oven. And this says 25 to 30 minutes. Wait, is that what it says? Yeah. Or until a toothpick comes out clean. I probably should have had these done ahead of time, you think? I do enjoy cooking and my time in the kitchen, so sometimes my videos aren't as efficient as they should be because I don't have things prepped ahead of time. So I need to work on that. Now, before we actually can frost this cake, it's going to have to cool completely. So I will be pausing you once we put the cake in the oven, and then we'll talk about that frosting. And obviously you want to take your batter out of the mixer before you put the pecans in so that you don't just crush them, break them up, and they stay in nice, lovely pieces. So you can see it is about the consistency of what a cake mix, a box mix would be. But I guarantee you this smells heavenly. It definitely smells like butterscotch. So, you know, I think the butter instead of the shortening, again, it may change the texture a little bit of the cake. I don't think it will, but I think it'll taste more butterscotchy for sure. And you could use dark brown sugar. I think what I have made up is a little more towards the light brown right now. Okay. So one little trick so that you don't have big tunnels in your cake is whack it on the counter like that. So here's what we have, and we're going to go into a 350 oven for 20 to 25 minutes. I will bring you back soon. All right, guys, let me correct myself. So the directions say bake the cake for 25 to 30 minutes. So I had only put 20 on my timer, so we're just going to ignore that. So now you need to work on the panucci frosting. So first thing I've done is I've taken, yes, another stick of butter. This happens to be unsalted butter. I've put it into a heavy saucepan. And I can remember making this frosting. My dad's favorite was anything like butterscotch, pecan. So I've been thinking about my dad a lot today. You know, if my dad would have lived, he and my mom would have celebrated 70 years of marriage on November 18th. And I think mom is kind of to the point where she probably doesn't remember. I mean, of course she remembers dad. I don't mean that. But she may not remember her anniversary date. But, you know, they were... My dad thought the sun rose and set on my mama, so I know that she really misses them. But let's not get sad. This is a fun Christmas video, right? So we're going to melt the butter, stir in brown sugar, 2 cups. Guys, it's not a low-cal recipe. Did I mention that? And half a cup of milk. And we're going to bring that to a boil and cook and stir it for about 3 minutes. The reason you want to start it now, I had to clean up my dishes and such, is because it has to cool for 20 minutes before you can actually make the actual frosting. So that will give the cake time to cool, etc., etc. So let's let this butter melt. And if you notice in my pan any discoloration, get you over here a little closer. And I can leave a link to my, I think they sell all of it on Amazon still. This is my enamel coated cast iron. And while it's really heavy, most of my pieces are large. I love it. I love it, guys. It will stain over time. That's okay. It still works great. And I have a pan that Mom and I did all of our candy in. And actually, where I worked many years ago, they had a place, it was a long-term care facility, where when a resident moved out or passed away, they had a sale place where you could go and buy all sorts of things. And I have some lovely pieces from that because it was all vintage type stuff almost without exception. So yeah, where was I going with that? Aluminum, heavy gauge aluminum pans to make candy in. My mom still has hers, but when my grandma passed away, I got one of hers. Okay, I'm going to turn this back just a little bit, guys, so I don't burn my butter. And let's add in our 2 cups packed brown sugar. That'll cool it down a little bit. I almost let that get too hot. It's okay to brown it, you just don't want to burn it. But I I don't like cooking in aluminum any longer because there's been a lot of research about the link between cooking with aluminum and Alzheimer's disease. And I've shared this before. My mom does not have Alzheimer's. My mom has what is called vascular dementia, which means she has had an interruption of blood supply to the brain. She's had several TIAs or mini strokes. So it is not the same disease course as Alzheimer's is. So more than likely, Mom will not pass away from her dementia, as Alzheimer's people often do, just because they totally forget how to eat and eventually, just really decline. But my mom does have some high blood pressure, and her father passed away from a stroke. I would suspect that she's at high risk. Okay, enough sadness, guys. Gosh. So we're going to add in our 1/2 cup of milk. And again, I'm using whole milk because that's all I have on hand. All the noises you hear. That was my Alexa telling me that probably my candied ginger is out on my front porch. So I want to get this really well incorporated before I turn the heat back up to bring it to a boil. And then the other thing you need to add is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And so I'm going to, well, that is definitely too much. Okay, well, that's good. So a little salty to break up all that excessive sweet. So we're going to bring this to a boil. Gosh, I put a lot on the stove, didn't I? Bring it to a boil. We will let it boil, watching it carefully, turning the heat down just enough so that we can keep it boiling, but not scorching. And you want to stir constantly while you do that. We will remove it from the heat after it's boiled for 3 minutes, and I will bring you back to show you what the next steps are. Stay tuned. Our 3 minutes have elapsed. You can see it's still boiling a little bit when I remove it from the stove. So we're going to add our teaspoon of vanilla. Stir that in. Oh, y'all, it smells so delicious. I would make my dad a butterscotch pecan pound cake that had like 2 sticks of butter. Well, so does this cake, but cream cheese, butterscotch chips, pecans, and a brown buttered icing. That reminds me of this, but this is such a lovely icing, and I would make this icing for him for his birthday cake. Okay, that is not done. And as I told you all, my oven is slow. So we want this to cool. That is one disadvantage of the heavy gauge cast iron pots. So I'm going to transfer it to my stainless steel mixer bowl. Whew, and that is hot, 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 hot. So this is would end up being sort of a soft candy, not to the level of fudge. I'm sorry, guys. You like seeing my ear? Ow. Don't touch your hand with the hot pot. All right. So this, hot. That's what the mixture looks like. We're going to let this cool. And it says 20 minutes, so I put about 5 on the timer, and we also have to wait for our cake to cool anyway. So I will bring you back when this is cooled. We're ready to add in our powdered sugar and bring this project to a close. Well, our beautiful butterscotch pecan cake is cooled, and our panucci is cool enough now that we can start to create our icing. So it will form a little skin on the top, but as soon as you start your mixer, you're good. So we're going to add about 3 cups of confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar. And I'm just going to do this half cup at a time. So we're looking for a fluffy butterscotch, caramelly type of icing. So that's 1 cup. I'm still working on our glittery beads here. So once that kind of incorporates, let's go for 1.5 cups. I'm going to kick this up just a little bit. Oh, if you've all ever tried brown sugar fudge, this is exactly what this smells like. Okay, so we're up to 2 cups. Cups, and we'll go ahead and put 3 in and give it a good mix and see where we are. You can always add just a little bit of milk or cream if it seems too thick. If it's too thin, a little bit more powdered sugar. So let me just drop this. I think we're going to need a little bit more sugar, but I want to whip it up good before I make that call. This is beautiful, beautiful icing. You guys can't even see. All right. Get you over here in the mixer bowl. Give it a final mix here. So you want it icing consistency, thick enough to stand up to the cake and not run into the cake, but thin enough that you can actually spread it. So let's see what our consistency is like for spreading. Oh, that is just about perfect. Just perfect. So I'm going to scrape the beater and we'll get this icing on the cake. I will bring you back for a final look. I need to get a picture for the thumbnail, maybe, and we'll do a taste test. So stay tuned. Ready for the taste test of our delicious cake, and I can tell you I did lick a little bit of the beater. Oh, the icing is so to die for. So let's give it a taste. So tender, so moist, so delicious. This is a cake that I think everyone would like to have the recipe if you make it for an occasion, a get together. I also wanted to show you I have 2 more unfinished strings of beads, but I did a variety of colors. They are lovely and shiny. I'm just leaving them there to dry before I finish them up. So that is going to conclude our first episode of An Old-Fashioned Christmas, 1920s. Drop me a comment below. Is there anything I didn't share about Christmas time for that decade that you would like to see in upcoming videos about the next decade? As always, be healthy, be well, be blessed. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.